I am live. I am reading out of Return to Elysium. It is a book by Joan Grant, a far memory book. It is about her life as Lucina in the 2nd century BC. She has returned to Lucina here. This is the 3rd part of the book, and it's chapter 8. It's entitled The Ghosts. I tried very hard to persuade the woman to admit that she was a ghost of Narcissus, but she only stared at me as though I had suddenly spoken in a foreign language. Yet, with certain careful reservation, she enjoyed my company. Provided that I discussed clothes or unguents, the futility of men or the superiority of women, she was absorbed, even eager, and showed a childlike gaiety incongruous in someone who seemed so mature. If I asked about her plans for the future, she became evasive and would only say that she was waiting for a ship to take her back to Rome, where her presence was urgently required. I shall have a villa which will be the envy of everyone, and even the emperor will obey me. When I led her to speak of the gladiator, she did so lightly and with a patronage, as though he were a chance acquaintance to whom she owed a trivial obligation. He was useful to me in his time, she said. He fought certain battles when I had less subtle powers at my command. His gross strength gave me confidence. It was interesting to see how easily he punished people who annoyed me. She laughed. Sometimes I almost envied him. I thought it might be amusing to have that obvious antagonism, to own a body so hard and insensitive. I was sorry for the gladiator. He was always civil to me, but seemed unable to sustain a lengthy conversation. He would drift off into a recital, dulled by repetition of some test of endurance, a soldier who had marched until his feet ran with blood, or a galley slave whose prowess of muscle had been the envy of his fellows. When I mentioned Narcissus, he stared at me with blank eyes, and either said he had never heard the name, or else went to the hard couch on which he spent most of his time and fell into a profound sleep. I was no more successful with the boy, until I found him hiding behind a rock, furtively watching the child who lived in the house on the headland. Perhaps it was because he felt specially lonely that he allowed me to approach. Was he talking to himself, or did he intend me to overhear? I learned that as a baby he had been as other children, requiring ordinary human affection, content with trivial joys, brave enough for his small enemies. Reluctantly he came to realize that his parents had wanted an heir instead of a son, a projection of their pride instead of a free companion. Then affection, which could find no natural channel, hardened into the barrier of a secret world where he hoped to be safe from disappointment. When this failed to give him the security he craved, he created a fantasy woman to be his protector, a woman more beautiful, more compelling even than his mother. To hide from other boys his longing to be a woman, he had to conceal this fantasy with another, modelled on his father, the dominant, aggressive male. This became the gladiator who served his master, the child, leaving the woman in power over them both. Slowly his dreams took independent form, assuming a vampire dominance over their creator. The boy was afraid to grow into either. So when Narcissus was aged 9, the boy also became a ghost. The gladiator took relatively little energy from Narcissus, for it is much easier to maintain a pattern than to cause it to change. But the woman grew in power on his desire. He found it convenient to obey her, for she offered him a kind of security, drawing on his vitality in exchange for an insight into women, a patronage of men. Could Lucina have rescued Narcissus from his ghosts? if she had loved enough not to seek an escape from herself? Could I free them all by taking the boy away from Elysium and creating for him a sanctuary where he might gain the strength of a happy childhood? I would be his mother or his sister. We could play together as Lucina might have played with other children if she had not learned solitude too young. Suddenly the boy became aware of me, turning quick as a fox, flinching as though I had thrown a stone at him. His face was unchanged, the yellow curls above the broad forehead, the pouting mouth, but the eyes were bitterly old. He pointed towards the house, where the woman luxuriated among her slaves. I made her, he said, and now she is too strong for me. Until I no longer envy her, I must be obedient. She is going away soon, and I with her. Together we are stronger than she is. His eyes were bright as metal. But I love her, he said passionately. What does it matter that I hate her too? I will kill you if you make me disobey. In a single movement he sprang to his feet and ran away from me, past the sleeping gladiator, towards the woman who included him. Across the silence I could hear the memory of Narcissus long ago. I love you, Lucina. I only hate the woman I despise in myself. I stood up. The sand was cold, the wind lonely among the pines. I love you, Narcissus, I said gently. When at last we have dismissed our ghosts, we shall find our lost integrity. So that was this chapter. Chapter 9 is entitled The Tree.